There. Meet your meeting yesterday.
Good.
You're on. I'm hoping you're on.
Okay, so we are on, we're recording, and I'd like to call to order the August 18th, 2026 Park Board meeting.
Hang on a second, Jose, just a minute, because we're getting sound through me, and we should not be getting sound through me. I'm muted,
But your speakers,
yeah, it's still.
you know, like your volume, audio volume.
Me either. Yeah, my husband's the IT guy. Just take that.
How about now, Mark? Is that better? Okay.
Let's try that.
All right, round two. So let's call to order the August 18th, 2026 Park Board meeting. And Janice, can we do a roll call, please?
Present.
Present.
Present. Okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on our agenda is public inputs. First, Janice, do we have any electronic correspondence? Or
We didn't have anything
Okay.
electronic.
all right, great. Yep. You could just share your name and address for the record.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
My name is Jeremy Mush. My address is 10229 Sutton Place. I'm here today to share my concerns about the proposed Pop Warner storage container and access gate near Cobblestone Park. While I greatly appreciate that the container is placed outside the park itself, I remain very concerned about the placement and the potential for it to become an eyesore for the neighborhood. To help preserve the park's character, I would have thought the agreement at the very least would have required landscaping, such as trees or shrubs to screen the container from view, and also restrictions on the container's color, so it blends in naturally with the surroundings. My larger concern is stewardship. For the past few years, Pop Warner has left equipment scattered across the park for months during the off-season, while other groups promptly store theirs. The agreement outlines responsibilities but doesn't require timely removal of equipment from the park. It should be updated to mandate that all equipment be placed in the container within a set number of days after the season ends. Thank you for my consideration.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Okay. All right, next we have the consent agenda for the approval of park board minutes and voucher registrations. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I will second.
We're being looked
Great. Janice?
Yes.
at. Yes.
Yes. And items for discussion.
We're gonna go to the report next.
Okay.
This is my board report here, so I will highlight a few things off this as we normally do, but just kind of keeping you up to date on things. West Lakes Park, Washington Building is and was and is still under construction. It's slowed down a little bit here with obviously the most recent events, but that is progress is being made towards the completion of that facility. Since we last met, the NIPSCO Fisher Street Trail was repaved fully from the Hart Street or from the Hart Bridge to the Hart Ditch Bridge all the way down to Public Works. The clubhouse electrical redistribution project, which you approved last month, that contract has been executed. And we are planning to get together at the end of this week with Midwestern Electric as they're looking to get their work scheduled and get that started out at Centennial Park for the clubhouse. The Cobblestones Park Courts project, we did wrap that up and open those courts as of July 22nd. We have had requests for an additional gate on the west side, so the pickleball side of the courts, and we've explored that. We asked the contractor who did the initial, that was, I think, was almost $6,000 to cut out a section of fence. I'm like, okay, we're going to get some other quotes. So we haven't done that yet now, and it'll probably be pushed a little bit. But the school at the town of Munster's tennis courts project, I was kind of preparing or mentioning that we were going to have an outage at Community Park. They did that the first week in August. They finally got a hold of NIPSCO to get out there. They did it, and that was the week of night out. So we had to say, well, wait a minute. Now that you're ready, we have to wait on that Tuesday to make sure night out went well without problem, and then they finished it the rest of that week. So we're back reconnected, and everything's okay out there for power for all of our other facilities that feeds through that. Which, by the way, other than the social center other than the pool, pretty much everything is fed in Community Park through this line that comes in, goes through the tennis court area, and then goes out to just about every other ball field, except for the Babe Ruth ball fields and press box. So interesting to see how it's all laid out and connected. The Heritage Park, I'm going to be attending the August 25th Historical Society board meeting to discuss the replacement of the gazebo out at Heritage Park. So I'll meet with them there and discuss the different concepts that have been completed for us and share that to get their input. The landfill improvements, Cabino Environmental finished all that, which was approved by the council earlier this year. They just wrapped up their multiple phases of work out there that all within collecting more places of gas and where there were breakages that were blocked when water leaks into the system. So they were able to make a lot of improvements that way. The night out went off. Kevin and his crew did a bang up job getting everything there. Had a big turnout as they always do. The town council, well, I'll leave that for Joe to mention in his report. So that they engaged. Community Estates Subdivision, I did email the property owner of 444 Megan Way just to inform her that we are still interested, that we are going through a transition with legal and we needed their assistance. So wanted to keep her up to date that, there is still an interest there as far as that particular property. We have the storage request from Pop Warner. I worked with them on getting to the point of today. And when we get to that item, Jason Hill from Pop Warner is here and he can add some more to that. 2027 budgets have been asked for by the clerk treasurer. So we had been working on those by the end of July. We basically were told expect zero growth. So pretty much same budget as last year, but it allowed us to move funds around from line to line where we had transfers this year due to pending increases. And you can expect, your insurances are going up, your water rates, your NIPSCO rates, all those postage rates where we know that rates are going up. We just have to kind of cut from other areas to be able to fund those for ourselves to exist for next year again. And then, of course, I'm going to wrap up with the tornado, which we're obviously now, since that's happened just over a week ago today, we've basically been on our whole department is helping out in some way or another. The town hall phones are down. We cannot accept any incoming phone calls. A fiber line was cut somewhere due to something from the tornado. Randomly, we're able to get a phone call out, but typically our email and our internet surprisingly still works, but that's probably the best way to get a hold of us if they need to or come in person. We are here every day in the office, but unfortunately right now we're in that recovery mode. We've really been heavy with the social center and the cooling / recharge station for the community, taking care of just coordinating the volunteer groups and the volunteer efforts on a daily basis, keeping the facility open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day of the week since this has happened. So lot of volunteers, a lot of community involvement is coming through, and it's rewarding to hear it and see it. A lot of different groups within the community are already going out and attacking the parks. People are asking how they can help. We've helped, just off the top of my head, I know we've had help from Little League, girls softball, Boy Scouts, Munster Sustainable and Green Team, individual residents, the high school athletes went out, and I mean, just between all of those groups, they've hit community, they've hit Frank Hammond, they've hit West Lakes, they've gone to Redbud, which is right off of the Pennsy, right by Centennial, going into Twin Creek. They've been to Sunnyside. They've been to Grove. It's amazing to see the community coming together. And again, they're piled up, making it a lot easier whenever the day comes that a chipper machine is free, or where a front end loader can get by there to pick it up. We'll be getting that. It's obviously going to take some time to recover fully. Our assessment, I think I told you guys via email, but just to say it, announce it publicly, Orchard Park's playground is totaled, with the exception of the swing, but there's a tree down on that. I'm sure that will end up having to be removed entirely. Likely will be an insurance claim. There's a tree right now on the porch of the Caskey House at Heritage. We are fearful of that. We haven't gone in and done a total assessment, but Kevin's initial review of it, we're scared of what that's going to potentially require there. Those are our and then the third largest area is at the Little League fields at Community Park, the furthest east field on the along the school town property parking lot. The big tall right field fence bent down and is folded down into the road right now, and their bullpen on the opposite side closest to Calumet Avenue, it has some bend to that fence line as well. So those are our three biggest damages within the parks, obviously, besides trees. We'll be getting on those once we, the primary focus right now is obviously clearing roadways, making sure safety, that people can get in and out, safety vehicles can get in and out. And then at that point, getting everyone, hopefully whatever we can do from the town's perspective to help get people recover with power. And then we'll be moving forward into heavier into parks. Our crews are there to support the other departments, and when we're not needed, we're jumping into the parks because unfortunately grass continues to grow, and we have these groups still using the parks. I mean, the fall seasons are starting, so between Pop Warner and softball and baseball and soccer and all the different groups are coming through. The other note that I will mention is the emergency management director for the town, that they have claimed, commandeered, if you will, 2 parks, Beach and Stewart, which are right now, Stewart's being used as a staging area for some of the vendors or the contractors in town. Beach is going to be used as a storage area for the wood debris. So right now we put out a notice that those 2 parks along with Orchard are closed. We're working on getting signage to put out at those parks, but they're slowly going in and, well, actually I shouldn't say slowly, they're going into Beach and dumping wood every, multiple times every single day. So they're piling it up right now in the parking lot. Hopefully it stays in the parking lot, but they will take on the grass areas if they need to as well. So I did inform girls softball that they wouldn't be able to use those fields out there, which they had been previously permitted to. Also to Midwest Wings, which typically has requested a permit for those fields. They've had a transition in their leadership of that club. Bill Decker, the longtime person in charge of that program, is no longer involved. And one of his head coaches that had been his assistants for years has taken it on. But at this point, we just can't accommodate them based upon our other programs and other available field space. So with that, all of our, it's a little bit of a good time for us. It's a little bit of a lull because this hit for us after most of our summer activities were just about wrapped up. Before this lull right here at the beginning of the school year, pool season was closed and summer camp was done and concerts were done. So we do have things coming back in September again, which we plan to hold. There's a few little programs here and there. Our teenagers have obviously been put on hold. They normally are at the social center. Our karate program, which is also over there. So anything that's been there has had to been put on hold. We've had a couple of rentals that were scheduled there that we've had to call and inform them that they wouldn't be able to use the facility. So that there will be some refunds there if we can't find alternate dates for them to potentially book. So other than that, I'll add out at the golf course, Chris's had a parent with a health issue, so he was unable to be here tonight. But the rain this year in general has helped the course. I mean, we've had a very wet year. The course has recovered quite a bit from last year, so that's been a plus. They've had some damage. We weren't as damaged down there as we were in the central part of town here near Community Park. But they've been slowly doing their cleanup out on the course and have reopened. Believe it or not, we get a daily report from the parking company. People continue to visit the park and pay to park every single day, even all the way through all of this news here in town, which is nice. We know people are going to visit that just for the reflection and the time to be out there and have that. But obviously the people paying typically are non-residents. So it's still an attraction even in the middle of what we're going through in town. So with that, I can answer any questions or we can move along.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Mark, I'll just say I'll echo everything you said, and it's been incredible to hear. I think Joe also mentioned it, that everybody coming together to help during this really challenging time, probably the biggest disaster event in Munster's history. And so and I think we see that in our community. We see that at the parks and all the other departments collaborating. So thanks for highlighting that, and appreciate everything that everyone's doing.
Yeah, positive of this is you see the community coming together really
Absolutely.
great. I mean, we've seen multiple people meet at the social center and exchange phone numbers that they had never known each other before, and they hit it off, sitting there talking for an hour or so, and they become friends, which builds a stronger community, which is part of what we do in Parks and Recreation. So that we're glad to see that. There's always a positive to things, even in the dark of night, if you will. So there is some inkling of positiveness that comes out of that.
Absolutely. Next, let's move on to items for discussion and action.
Did you have anything, Joe?
I can just say a couple things about what happened last night at the town council meeting, kind of where we're at. I don't know if everybody's aware that Tricia Abbott was appointed as the town manager. She will return on August 30th or August 31st to start that position. And we are very pleased. Well, four of us are very pleased that that has occurred. The public, I just want to say Public Works, and we're talking about the town and moving debris to the parks, but the Public Works have been working, endless hours, day and night, doing a great job. Spirits and the morale down there are still up, and they're just knocking it out of the park. We have been talking to different companies to engage with to kind of take over the removal of debris and kind of free up some things. And like Mark was mentioning, that the Parks Department has played the major role down at the social center in maintaining that. And there has been an enormous amount of volunteerism down there as far as manning grills, cleanup, getting food out. And, they're serving thousands of meals almost daily. Wouldn't you say, Mark? Yeah. I mean, thousands of meals almost daily. People are coming through, and it's just, I like that saying that the shortest distance between two people is a smile. And I think that's happening down there. So it's definitely tightening up our town. And again, I just mentioned a couple times last night at the meeting, as far as getting communication out and getting updates out. The places to go for the accurate information is to Munster.org website, our town website, and Facebook, the Munster Facebook, our Town of Munster Facebook. To get the information. And also they're going to be posting updates on the area here out front and at the social center, or wherever the cooling station is going to be. It's going to at the social center right now. But that's all I have to say. I think the town's moving, quickly, and I'm for one grateful that we have a tremendous team that's making everybody look good. So hopefully we're putting some smiles on some faces, and people understand that, this is a unique and historic kind of situation. That's all I have.
Thank you, Joe. Next, let's move to items for discussion. Mark, do you want to introduce the resolution?
Yeah, so resolution 2026-05 is a resolution to amend the Parks and Recreation schedule of fees. This is our typical seasonal one. We come 3 times a year because we have a brochure that's went to the printer right before this storm. And so these are approving of those fees that are within that. And of course, we base the fees upon our expenses and the policies that we have as far as setting the different rates that we have for all of the various expenses for those particular programs and special events that we offer. So this is for the fall season, and there's a spreadsheet with all those fees attached to the resolution. This is also just to point out as a reminder, this is a requirement from the Department of Local Government Finance. The board has to approve all fees, so that's why we bring it to you with a recommendation seeking your approval.
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Janice, call the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Next, we have the Pop Warner football license agreement. Mark,
yes, we had the Munster Pop Warner had approached me, Jim Dunn and Jason Hill, who's here, that about placing a storage, something to store equipment in, mainly tackling dummies, which they're carting home every single night. And the previous regime of that coaches had a lot more pickup trucks than what they had. The day I met Jason out there, he was on a motorcycle. So you can imagine how that would be difficult to carry a tackling dummy on a motorcycle. But after discussion, so when this first got brought up, I talked to the community development department about what are the rules, what's allowed, and so forth. So they do, and we recognize putting a storage shed in the park is not something that would be well received. Putting it into the maintenance yard of Centennial Park behind the fenced enclosure there was an opportunity that we could go. That met the requirements to screen for screening purposes. We suggested a storage unit of 8 feet by 8.5 feet by 20 feet long, 8 feet wide, 8.5 feet tall by 20 feet long. And that to place it right up against the fence where they could basically pull a section of fence out and replace that with a gate so we could close the gate, smooth fence all the way around it, and they'd have access once they opened the gate to the doors to the actual storage shed. So, but the shed itself would be in the maintenance yard of the Centennial Park maintenance facility there. Within that yard, we already have a container. We have 2 containers for the plant, the gas to energy plant. So, but the intent that we had was to be able to place that in that area and to try to blend it into the surroundings. Putting it into the yard, there is some trees. I know Jeremy had brought up the point of trying to screen it even further with additional bushes or trees or things like that. That was the intent, was to put this into that area to allow for there to be some level of screening there. Will some of it be exposed? Yes, because it's taller than, we only are allowed to put a 6-foot fence unless we, that's the town ordinances there. So that's the max height that we can go for that. So we shared all these details after getting the input from community development. We shared that with John Reed, who was our acting attorney, and had him draft up the license agreement that's included today. But besides that, I'll let Jason add from his perspective what they're seeking for and wanting to do. I'll let you jump on in, Jason, if you want to step up and talk about that. That's probably the best opportunity for you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Hill. I'm the vice president of Munster Pop Warner Football and Cheer. Kind of as Mark had mentioned, I'm a part of a new group that is taking over Munster Pop Warner. We started our takeover process here in December of 2025. Just a little bit about our organization. We serve about 150, 200 different football players and cheerleaders in our town. I just wanted to thank Mr. Hines first for kind of meeting with us and even addressing this issue that we had to bring it here before everybody today. The storage unit solution would help our organization extremely. Like Mr. Heinz already kind of explained, just the stress that it puts on our coaching staffs to kind of carry some of this stuff from their personal homes in their personal vehicles over to Cobblestone Park. So we do have a little bit of storage area currently in the community park concession stand at the baseball field that we do share with baseball and some other things there. This storage unit solution would, I think, not only benefit Pop Warner in terms of our storage needs, but also some of the issues that have been addressed by the community. Because being honest, in previous years, I can recognize that things have been left out. And as a coach within the organization, always kind of wondered why, like, why do we do this? Why do we leave some of these things out? That just wasn't very well received with our previous leadership. So we're really trying to find a balance between solution for us and something that will meet the needs of the community at Cobblestone as well. And talking with Mr. Heinz, like he had previously mentioned, the fence is 6 feet. The storage unit is 8 feet. We would be willing to purchase the same color or paint the same color as the fence to further mask that. We discussed some landscaping opportunities there. However, just where it is and where the location is, that might be rather difficult. But in terms of all the things that are left out currently, we have a couple of larger tackle sleds and a couple of smaller ones. Those would easily be able to be put inside the storage container in a timely manner after the season. The season runs from July till roughly November. I'm in charge. I'm the football coordinator within the organization as well. So we would make sure that with our equipment manager, we would get all of those things put away and completely out of sight. I agree, again, kind of with the community, putting it there outside the fence, not ideal, but Mr. Heinz was kind enough to help us find an even better solution, putting it completely out of the park and potentially even using that storage container for some other things later on down the line for the town. So again, I just wanted to thank everybody for the platform here and just an opportunity to kind of help us a little bit and try to our best to meet the needs of and requests of the Cobblestone community. So
they within the packet, and I haven't seen it, but it is it's shown as a location, just so you can see in the box, the yellow box here. So it would be facing, the gate would be facing to the east. So the direction towards the residence is primarily to the south. It's pretty difficult to see where you would see the opening of the gate. Would you see potentially the exposure of the top of it? Yes. If you're in the park, you definitely would see it, but you also see the maintenance yard itself. The second graphic was just representative of the type of container.
And again, just an example container.
Yeah. How many feet is that long?
20 feet long, by 8 wide,
8.5 wide, 8 tall.
And you're not expanding the fence area, right? It's within the existing.
It's within the existing fence. So, and again, and this is one that when we first talked about it, we didn't want to put, because the original request was put something in the park. And I'm like, I had Jeremy in my head at the time as a neighbor. I'm like, nah, I know this isn't going to go over well. So that's where we tried to come up with a solution that works well for everybody there. I think that over time, I wouldn't want to take any space inside the maintenance area for plantings, just because we do use that space. there's a lot of various things that we have with our events, the golf course and everything else that we deal with out there. We've considered internally. I know our guys out there, they would love for us to get more storage units because we have stuff that's literally in the yard that's just sitting out in the weather year round. The maintenance yard out at Public Works, for instance, has 4, 5, 6 of these. So I mean, you know, that's where they store a lot of barricades and cones and things like that, just to get them out of the weather throughout the year. But so I think that idea, our vinyl fence is kind of a cream color, which is kind of representative in this, and we put in here in the exhibit, you know, the example. This is an example. The color is preferred to match the vinyl fence, so that it is referenced within the agreement already. I think it's a matter of having a new leadership and a new regime out there. Jason's locally and involved here in the community. I think that they understand what we're trying to find as far as being a good neighbors, and making sure that everything is that way. I've reached out to them a few times. You know, there was random things left on the shelter. I said, hey, I know you just started your season, but there's a bunch of stuff here that moms and dads probably left there that, you know, don't forget to make sure to clean up, and they were on it right away, you know. So I appreciate that, and it's something that, you know, we're looking towards. We obviously want to have good neighbors. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have Pop Warner at Cobblestones Park. We don't have enough green space in our park system, and you guys know this, to fit a full-size football field. Unfortunately for them, it's only a practice facility. It's not a game facility, but I will say, I think, and you can verify, your numbers have gone up the last.
Yes, between flag football in the spring and spring cheerleading, those numbers especially have gone up. And our fall tackle, fall cheerleading is also showing some growth. We're pretty popular in the Pop Warner community. Our cheerleading teams make nationals. They do a fantastic job. We've had 2 or 3 extremely competitive football teams over the last couple of years. And we are pulling interest from a lot of local communities to come be a part of Munster Pop Warner.
I will add, when we first were approached, they were thinking something on a much smaller shed, basically for main tackling dummies, not necessarily the sleds, but this larger unit would allow for them to get some sleds. Actually, one of the sleds that's out there, they even want to get rid of. So potentially you'll see one just disappear. But from a maintenance side of it, we would be happy to get rid of them, because obviously when they're out there, they're in the way of mowing, and we got to be pushing them and moving them as we mow park. So to be able to do that would definitely be a goal of us, and that's a plus to the idea of this whole project. So
if there's anything that's not currently in the agreement that we would need to add to accommodate, we would be willing to work with the community there at Cobblestone as much as possible to make sure their needs are being met and their requests are being seen and addressed.
So it sounds like this is solving one of the biggest issues historically, which has been, you know, equipment being left on the field, and we're getting a guarantee that that equipment will always be cleared after practices. Is that?
Community neighborhood park, right? It's not really meant for the dog. It's that on right? So probably the largest complaint when I talk to my neighbors is the inability to drive safely down the street. I didn't bring that up today because it's really not part of the budget. I just want to clarify, right? That is not really going to be resolved by this. I would argue. My reason for coming today is lack of stewardship. You walk the park right in the summer, the sophomore is not playing. You put it together. There was no effort. Put it together. Put it off to the side. So when people are playing frisbee golf, right? They're having to go around. And I understand there's a new regime. I'm just saying from what I see as neighbor of the Pop Warner community that's there the last 2 years, they've not been great students. And now to ask for storage, I understand that, but effort could have been made to put it into a corner away to let everyone that wants to use the park use it. At the end of the season, it was just black. Wherever it was, we're all prepared for it. And I agree, effort needs to be made. I just want to bring my perspective.
To address that, I personally did put everything together at the end of the season, close to the baseball fields, in between the shelter and the baseball fields. Probably not the most ideal spot. Was honestly kind of unsure where to leave it. Was relying on previous practice and where it was there, but I did put everything together and have it, and it was tied together. It was undone and moved throughout the park. So that was kind of more, yes, we need the storage solution and get it out of the way. However, when we do put the things there, we've already had this year had a chain cut and go missing because we've tried to keep things much closer together. They just somehow find their way across the park. And I understand, I'm not saying that our coaches are not responsible for putting things, because that does happen, can't deny that. But this would be a step forward, I think, to help us make sure that that does not happen in the future.
So to clarify on that, it is the intention to put everything in the container after every practice.
With the storage unit being 8 by 8 by 20, the intent would be to have all of our tackling dummies and smaller one-man sleds that are about 3 chairs long here, all put away. There are 2 larger sleds that are 3-man that are fairly large that would not be stored until end of season. However, we could move them to a designated location at the end of every practice.
And Mark, could we give them a designated location to be clear on
Yeah,
what the
I mean,
expectation is?
I'm not, and I don't even think Jeremy's saying that. During the season, he understands. You're using the stuff, it's going to be out there, right? It's really when it's during the off season. You're gone, you're not even there anymore. It's just putting them away. And it's the same way that we deal with this soccer. When soccer season's over, soccer goals kind of get grouped up and clamped together, put over. Lacrosse goals at same park will be grouped up and usually they put them behind the tennis court fences. They're out there, they're visible, they're large, they're hard. No one can, it's not real easy to move them around. And you also don't want people stealing them. And you also don't want people kind of, messing around with them in an inappropriate way and potentially getting hurt or anything like that. So I think that during the in season, I don't think the bigger sleds need to go in. It's just at the end of the season, let's pack everything into the shed as much as we can, hopefully everything if we can. And if not, I think I would suggest that if we, for year round, we designate almost right outside of where we're proposing this to be in the gate. So it would be at the east end of the maintenance yard on the Cobblestone Park side of that fence line would be our suggestion. So between the pathway and the north property line of Cobblestone's Park, if you will.
Sorry, Mark.
Go ahead.
We measured the size of the sleds, and according to our measurements, they should all fit inside the 8 by 8 by 20 container. And again, like Mark said, the container was originally not our idea. We were looking for the smallest possible option to ease
and a lot less expensive.
everything. However, I mean, the larger option would help a lot more. And then moving it out of sight with the fence.
And the option also is there. If we ever come up with more land where we can move them, it's portable. I mean, right. You load it up on a truck and take it there if we potentially can take it with again. So, I mean, that's also an option, giving us that flexibility as well as a club, as a community, because as we shift things around, who knows? I mean, we would love to have a permanent big enough space. Right now there's because of the reason that Jeremy mentioned about parking and stuff, we know it's just, there's not, we don't have enough of those big open green spaces for all the programs that we have active in our community. Mm-hmm. Good problem to have. Unfortunately, it's parking, and it's that prime time of when everyone's pouring home from work and dinner time, and 5 to 8 at night. That's when all the teams and practices are all kind of out in the parks. So,
what are the alternatives that you've explored, or what would you do if you didn't have access to this shed?
If if we didn't have access
To this container,
Shed.
yeah. Mhm.
I mean, currently what we're doing, but it's kind of, we run into an issue here with like our insurance because our coaches are in charge of their pads. We split. Not only does it put a strain on some of the coaches and what they can actually do in practice because they're limited to 3 half rounds and a wheel, like just some different equipment. And not all teams practice on the same days. So if one team has a couple extra items that another team needs, they're not able to use it currently. What would we do? We would continue with what we're doing where the coaches would have to load their cars with all the equipment, be responsible for transporting it themselves, getting it there and returning it back to our storage at Community Park.
And that means it's also potential for more equipment to be left on the field. Is that what you're saying too? If you continue doing what you're doing, like we'll still have equipment on the fields, like potentially being left, or
it wouldn't. No, the things that we transport would not be left out. They are smaller compared to like the larger
But
sleds
the larger
that you
tech
push.
sleds would be left there
would be.
every night, which is what they are right now. They're left out all
Yes,
night.
the larger ones would be.
Year round right now. So this is an opportunity to get them at least definitely at the end of the season, and when they're not out there using the park for the spring season and the fall until they start in the fall or late summer, when they would need to pull them out again. Typically, I think the permit this year for their fall season was July 15, and it'll go through, depending on how good they go participate wise, Super Bowls and all that, they could go as late as almost Thanksgiving, I think it is, or close to just beyond that maybe.
Most teams are done the first week of November. We won't have any teams competing at our regional. It ends the first week of November.
Okay. Mark, are there any additional changes to the agreement that you would want to consider, or do you think that this is?
I think it's satisfactory. I mean, obviously we have on the record during this public meeting, this discussion. I mean, the things that are pointed out, that the comments that were made. I think what Jason's had there. I mean, if you wanted to, I think you have a couple of different options before you as a board. I mean, you can approve it as it is. You can approve it with any additional amendment, if you will, to the agreement. If you'd want to add something in there, obviously you could deny the request, or you could table this. I mean, your choices. This isn't going to happen real fast. There are some costs to bear here. Obviously the fencing aspect with the tornado activity, who knows what kind of response time we're going to get with fencing companies right now, besides the materials themselves as well. So to make sure to match the existing fence that's out there. So not going to happen real fast, but if you were to approve it, I think their intent is to start working on this to make it as fast as they can, but I think there will be some time to get it through if you did that. I think we can look at it ourselves too, even if you didn't add anything, the potential for us maybe moving or adding trees in that area in the park side as well. Additional things like that. As we have memorial trees come in and things like that, that could be areas that we suggest that people could plant as well, just to help further the screening of it. We don't really want to take any of the space inside. There's a walking circle there, or oval, if you will. Pathway in the park. We really don't want to take space within the inside of the circle, but outside of that, there is some room between the walking path and the fence line that we could add some additional trees over there to help increase that screening. And the trees that are there now, obviously, will continue to grow on both sides of the park. The south side along the street side, and then also on the fence there is a row of trees and smaller shrubs that have been planted there. That'll continue to grow as well. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with this as written, Jose. I think the issues brought up, this will solve a lot of that. And then I think just outside of this, making it clear that if people are using our parks, where is the equipment expected to go and when is not part of this license agreement, though.
Yeah, I have a lot of empathy for both sides of this, and I think the main problem, there's two problems I'm hearing from Jeremy. So like the traffic, that's not something we can address here, but like from like cleanliness of the parks and like making sure that there's accountability from the Pop Warner organization, I think this solves a significant amounts. And I'm also I've coached, I still coach, and so I've played football, and I know that there's work to be done there to protect your equipment and make sure you have everything ready for your players. So I think this makes sense. And if, unless you have something to say, Robin, I would think we can motion to approve.
Yeah, everything makes sense to me too. I would suggest that maybe telling the parents to just park on one side of the street for practices so that people can get around. Our streets are wide enough, but maybe just
Yeah, I think we see the same thing at beach
so
too.
that you're not kind of.
It's tight there. I mean,
Yeah.
because of the not only Pop Warner, but just the other park users. You're going to have people over at the
Right.
playground at that time of the evening, getting home
But
from
you
work.
could tell the
taking kids.
parents, you know,
Yeah.
just park on the right side
Yeah.
or the left side.
We didn't, because of I don't know if it impacted a lot, but we didn't issue, or the Little League permit. They usually use that ball field out there. This year we ended that July 15th, knowing Pop Warner would begin to alleviate, at least to pull any baseball teams from being there to practice out. So that, that was part of the intent of adjusting those permits, and the fact that, giving them as much green space as they can have.
Right.
We've had further requests from like lacrosse at the same time to also go out there in the fall. We've denied that. I'm like, sorry guys, we're at capacity, if you will, to a degree out there. But of course, we also just added pickleball and tennis, and
Right.
those are being used. It's now, those are a little bit more routinely throughout the day, even because of the age group that's playing that primarily. But yeah, it's a challenge there with the parking. I mean, there's been issues, and I know the town has the speed team, and they've tried to address that with the speed humps that are out there and things like that. But it is something, I know that for us, we were also considering down the road, is there a way to add additional parking? You hate to eat up parkland for parking, but
Right.
if it is needed, then, potentially that's something we may have to consider down the road with, future capital improvement funds.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the Pop Warner football license agreement?
I'll motion to approve.
I will second.
Janice, would you like to do the roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. If there is no further business before the board, our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 15th, 2026 at 5 p.m. Right here at Town Hall. And now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Anybody opposed? Joe, you looked hesitant for a second. You look like you were going to. All right.